China has issued a 12-point position paper regarding the war between Russia and Ukraine. The plan calls for a ceasefire and talks between the two countries. The paper urges an end to Western sanctions against Russia and the establishment of humanitarian corridors for the evacuation of civilians. The proposal calls for the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of all countries to be effectively guaranteed, and for nuclear power plants to be kept safe. It also opposes the threat or use of nuclear weapons and the Cold War mentality. Ukraine has welcomed China's proposal to mediate between Kyiv and Moscow, although some officials believe that the withdrawal of Moscow's troops back to Ukraine's 1991 borders must be a part of any peace plan. Western diplomats and experts reacted with skepticism, noting that China is not neutral and has not condemned Russia's invasion. The experts also noted that the paper appeared to be aimed at pleasing both Russia and Ukraine, as well as other global players, such as the US and the EU, which are important to China's economic interests. China has sought to maintain good relationships with both Russia and Ukraine, while also avoiding being seen as taking sides in the conflict. However, some experts also pointed out that China's position on the war could have significant implications for the global order, as it is one of the few countries that has significant influence over both Russia and the West. China's efforts to play a role in resolving the conflict could potentially lead to a new international order, in which China becomes a key mediator and power broker. Overall, the release of China's position paper on the Russia-Ukraine conflict highlights the country's growing diplomatic ambitions and its desire to play a more active role in global affairs. While the paper has received mixed reactions from Western allies and experts, it could potentially mark a significant shift in the balance of power in international politics. What is China's position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict? China has released a 12-point position paper outlining its stance on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. The paper calls for an immediate ceasefire between the two parties and urges all parties involved to exercise restraint and prevent the situation from escalating further. The proposal includes several long-held Chinese positions, such as ensuring the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of all countries involved. The plan also calls for an end to the Cold War mentality and opposes the use or threat of nuclear weapons. It urges an end to Western sanctions against Russia and calls for the establishment of humanitarian corridors for the evacuation of civilians. The proposal also addresses the need to ensure the export of grain after disruptions caused global food prices to spike last year. How has Ukraine responded to China's proposal? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has welcomed China's proposal and expressed his willingness to work with China to end the conflict. However, senior advisor to Ukraine's president, Mikhailo Podolyak, has emphasized that any plan to end Russia's war in Ukraine must involve the withdrawal of Moscow's troops back to Ukraine's 1991 borders. Earlier, Ukraine's first deputy foreign minister, Amina Chaparova, told Al Jazeera that the country welcomes China's proposal to mediate between Kyiv and Moscow. However, she emphasized that Ukraine believes in a just and fair peace, not appeasement. How have Western allies responded to China's proposal? Some Western diplomats and experts have reacted with skepticism and disappointment to China's proposal, noting that China is not neutral and has not condemned Russia's invasion. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has stated that China does not have much credibility to negotiate an end to the conflict, given that it had signed an agreement with Russian President Vladimir Putin days before the invasion. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen echoed Stoltenberg's sentiments, stating that China had not shared a peace plan, but rather some principles. However, Germany's government spokesperson noted that it is important for China to discuss its proposals directly with Ukraine to find a balanced solution that takes Ukraine's legitimate interests into account. What do experts say about China's proposal? According to Nicholas Bequelin, a visiting fellow at Yale Law School's Paul Tsai China Center, China cannot be an effective mediator in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and the proposals put out by China reflect this. He stated that the 12-point plan is not a plan, but rather a set of principles about the way China sees the conflict. Bequelin emphasized that China is in a bind over the Ukraine conflict since it causes problems to China's relationship with Europe, its economy, and its place in the world. At the same time, China's view of the world is that a showdown with the West is on the horizon, and a showdown with the West will happen sooner or later, he added.